This presentation will focus on the testing, evaluation and teaching of special groups. Firstly, we should say that regardless of which teaching situation you find yourself in terms of in a school, in a language centre, or teaching young learners or adults or whatever, you will always be involved in some way or other in some form of testing or evaluation. Those tests may include things that are done internally for the school, including such things as homework, course unit tests, maybe half-year exams, certainly end-of-year exams, and you may also be involved in the testing for external tests, such as preparation for IELTS and other such examinations. So let's have a look first of all at the more common types of tests that take place. These tests could include things such as placement tests, what are called diagnostic tests, progress tests, many different forms of practice tests, and finally what are often referred to as proficiency tests. So what we'll do is we'll take each of these in turn and have a look at some of the more common detail relating to each. Type of test is called the placement test. Often they're also called level tests. And as the name implies, what we're trying to do is to place students in a particular level of class. Some of the more common features of these are that all 4 skills are commonly tested. That means reading, writing, speaking and listening. And they tend to be what's called progressive. And by progressive, what we mean is that the questions tend to start easy and gradually become harder and harder. That means that not all students will get to the end of the test, and how far they actually get will determine the actual level of the students. If we take a speaking test, for example, we might start off with some very simple things like, does the student know the vocabulary for the days of the week? And if they do, can they put today's day into a sentence? So they may say something like, okay, today is Wednesday. We can then raise the level of the question and say, all right, if today is Wednesday, can you give me a sentence for yesterday and a sentence for tomorrow? Then we will hopefully be using the past form of is and the future form to find out whether the next level. Once we've done that, we could perhaps check a further grammar point. We could say something like, okay, if I am eating rice, could you tell me what tense this is? If they're able to identify that tense as the present continuous, then can they actually identify each of the parts of speech within that question? If so, we could then give them another sentence of a different tense, for example, present perfect, and see if they can indicate the parts of speech for that one, looking particularly at this new form, the adverb of frequency. That will then get us up to the higher levels, and we can then ask them some general questions to find out whether we think they should be in the intermediate or the upper intermediate groups. So it tends to be progressive, starting easy. The further the students go, the higher the level they're actually at. Type of test is called the diagnostic test, and what a diagnostic test is really doing is telling us about the student's current strengths and weaknesses. A diagnostic test can also give us some indication of the student's aptitude and tell us something about whether or not they're going to be able to learn a particular type of material. One of the main things that a diagnostic test can do is that it will allow us to concentrate our planning by telling us what the students already know and the gaps in their knowledge. So a diagnostic test is very, very useful for the teacher in terms of the curriculum plan. The next type of test is called the progress test, And it's one that, whatever teaching situation you find yourself in, you're probably going to be involved in one way or another. Typically, for progress tests, again, all 4 skills are tested. This type of test is often required by the school or the language centre that you're working in, and even so by the parents, to show that learning has taken place. The duration of time that the progress test is taken over can vary. It could be a particular unit test that's done when a unit is completed in a book. It could be a term test, it could be half year, or it could be an end of year. So there are different lengths of time over which these progress tests are covering. The progress test can be a very, very useful test for the teacher because quite often it will indicate from the whole class if there are any areas that they're struggling with, and it tells us that we need to cover that particular area of the curriculum again. If we have a particular topic that all the students are getting incorrect, then it tells us that that class weakness needs to be readdressed. We need to cover that particular area again.